Donovan.
All right, here we go, everyone. It's the Donovan Live Postgame Show on a Monday night presented by Master Pizza. Remember, download, I keep telling you folks, this is a very simple thing. Get on your smartphone, download that Master Pizza app, start earning pizza points today. It's all Master Pizza, taste above all.
Wait, there's free pizza involved?
Well, that's what everybody, when they sit up here, they always ask. At some point, my guy at Master Pizza is going to bring us, Mike LaMarca will bring us free pizza.
Please make sure it's on a day I'm here.
Yes, I will do that.
I love nothing more than free pizza.
Oh, who doesn't love free pizza?
Absolutely.
All right. The pride of Sandusky, the pride of Bowling Green, Jay Crawford in the house. Good to see you, my man.
Dino, great to see you again. Great to see you.
Yes. Now, you and I actually go back a little ways because back when you were working at the Worldwide Leader and I was working at Worldwide Leader Cleveland, we did a radio show together one time. And
I remember it.
It was I had so much fun doing it, and I remember just thinking, I'm like, man, I would love to see Jay as much as I loved having you representing Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, BG on the national stage. It's like, man, someday I would love to get him back in Cleveland where he could talk about Cleveland sports, Cleveland life, everything. And
well, listen,
here you are.
Dino, it's always been in the plan. In fact, before I went off to Bowling Green, my father said, write down your goals, put them on a piece of paper. Start with the one that's most attainable and the stepping stone, and your dream at the very bottom. So if it's your dream to be president of the United States, you would list, whatever, mayor, governor, senator, president. I literally put, I want to do some radio at Bowling Green. I want to graduate. I want to start at a small radio station. I want to move to a bigger radio station. I want to make the jump into television. I want to work my way up the markets and eventually Cleveland, Ohio. And nowhere on that sheet was ESPN. Nowhere on that sheet was any network job or national job. It's always been my ultimate dream to one day work in Cleveland, Ohio. So when I left Bowling Green in 1987 as a wide-eyed, ambitious 21-year-old, I knew that my pot of gold would be working one day in the Cleveland media. And as my career unfolded, things kind of happened rapidly. And next thing you know, I find myself in Tampa, Florida. And from Columbus, Ohio, I thought a nice jump would be from Columbus to Cleveland. But there was
very logical.
The openings in this market were few and far between. The sports guys were very good and very entrenched, not going anywhere. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to take a kind of circuitous route. I'll go Columbus, Tampa, Cleveland. So I went to Tampa. I worked 5 years as the sports director at the ABC station there. I covered the Buccaneers the year they won the Super Bowl. But always with one eye on Cleveland, always looking for that opening, that opportunity to come home. And in 2003, ESPN called, and I thought, well, this is a really circuitous route to get to Cleveland, but let me do a 5-year stint there and sort of make a name for myself, and then it would be easier to make the transition from ESPN to Cleveland. And 5 years turned into 10, turned into 15, turned into 16 years. And I finally can scratch off at the bottom of my goal sheet from 1983, Cleveland, Ohio television station.
How does one go from being, because I was just like you, Bowling Green graduate. In my case, it was 97, and I did local radio. At what point did you pivot and say, you know what, I can do this television thing? Because that was one of my issues. I always had this complex that I couldn't do TV. That's not for me. I have a face for radio. You know, you out there may still say that, and that's cool. But how did you pivot to where television was the right fit and felt right for you?
Well, a BG, like you, I'm sure, worked at the Bowling Green Radio News Organization, so I got a lot of radio experience. But I also, from doing television classes, did some studio work and found that I liked television more than radio. In the summers between my junior and senior year, I did an internship at Channel 3, oddly enough, in Syracuse, New York, an NBC affiliate. And it was during those 3 months in the summer of 1986 where I was just bitten with the bug. When I came back to Bowling Green for my senior year, I had really crossed off my list of goals ever working in radio because I loved doing television that much. And I was very fortunate. I started my television career a few months after I graduated from Bowling Green, very small CBS affiliate in southeast Kentucky. And from there, made my way to Hartford, Connecticut, Columbus, Ohio. And
climb that
and along the
ladder.
way, I dabbled in radio. I did a sports talk show in Columbus, Ohio, on radio, and enjoyed that. But really, for me, I've always enjoyed doing the television far more.
So we get you now here at Channel 3, and man,
No, I get you.
Oh, the day
I get Channel 3.
Jay, I'm telling you, the day we got Jay Crawford. Jay Crawford's coming here. I'm like, this is unbelievable, and it fits. It makes so much sense, and you're going to be doing so much fun stuff for us, and whether it's a presence here on our digital platform, and also eventually kind of being our trailblazer when we launch some different newscasts, and I think it makes so much sense.
Well, Dino, when I went to ESPN, they had talked to me twice prior about a SportsCenter role and about a role on the show Around the Horn. And neither felt like good fits. I didn't particularly want to live in the Northeast. I loved where I was in Tampa, and all this time thinking Tampa, Cleveland. And so I talked to them about SportsCenter, I talked to them about the Around the Horn, and neither one seemed like it was a good fit for me. And then they called me about a show called Cold Pizza. And I said, wait a minute, what? What Cold Pizza? Is this a cooking show? And they said, no. It's a sports show in the morning, kind of GMA for sports. And I said, I don't know. That sounds really interesting to me. All the critics said it will never work. There's not enough viewers for a live sports show in the morning. At the time, the only thing on in the morning on any of the networks nationally were SportsCenter reruns. That was it. And so I said, this might be an opportunity for us to sort of change the landscape. And all of the critics nationally said this will never work, it will never last, there's not enough viewers in the morning for a live morning sports show. That was 2003 when we launched. It took us about 2 or 3 years, but we became a breakthrough hit for the network. That show, First Take, Cold Pizza became First Take, which is still on the air, the show that I helped launch.
It became a brand.
It did become a brand, and I'm proud to say that from the very humble beginnings of all the television critics in the country saying, this show will be here and gone in 6 weeks. It will never work. 16 years later, Cold Pizza / First Take, still on the air, still slaying it. But more importantly, that show paved the way for today. There are 15 live morning shows nationally between the MLB Network, the NFL Network, the Golf Channel, ESPN has Get Up, has First Take, Fox Sports 1 has 2 live morning shows. So that really was trailblazing. And not that we're going to do the same thing here, but we're going to try to do a show at 5 o'clock that no one's done here. It's going to be a little different. It's not going to be your traditional sit-down, suit and tie, behind-the-desk newscast. Our first priority is to have fun. If we have fun, the viewers will have fun and they'll come back. But we're gonna do some different things, and my hope is to take the experience I gained at ESPN when we launched Cold Pizza in what was really an unknown direction, and kind of blaze our own path and see where it takes us. And I can't wait to get going.
Yeah, somebody, if they were doing this for the first time, it'd be like, oh my God, I'm nervous. But it's you come into this with, I think, just the understanding. It's like, don't worry about trying something new.
Oh yeah,
I've been there.
Absolutely,
I've been there.
And look, you'll try stuff that's going to work, and you're going to try stuff that fails miserably. And what I would tell everybody at Cold Pizza is, we'll know while we're doing it. This is a good segment. This is not. And the whole intent here is to keep and reproduce and do a lot more of what works, what the viewers tell us they like, and take the segments where viewers are clearly telling us that didn't hit a mark, that was terrible, leave that alone, we won't go back. So, we're really kind of putting the power in the people's hands, and we're going to let them tell us what they like. And with digital now, it's so much easier to track what gets traction and what they like.
Yes.
And we're going to ante up and double down on the stuff they like and give the viewers more of it. So it starts in January at 5 o'clock, and I cannot wait.
I can't wait.
Looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be, I think it's great. I think it's going to be fun. I think having you in Cleveland is great. I want to get to the brand. I want to get to the present day here in a second.
Sure.
But just to me, like, if I think about, Jay Crawford, 2 moments I just think of right away, the day LeBron James announced he was coming back to Cleveland, and your reaction, and being a journalist, but not being afraid to be a little emotional for Cleveland and carry the flag for Cleveland, and then, of course, the championship. And just, remembering what those moments must have been like for you, and I mean, now you get to have 5 days a week doing that. 5 days a week of doing that.
Honestly, Dino, I have to pinch myself because literally, when I think back on my time at ESPN, I got to do so much incredible sports journalism. I really did. But for me, the 2 highlights were the 2 that you just mentioned. And it was very funny to me that the day the news broke it was July 11th, and LeBron's coming home. I'm on the set with 2 other Clevelanders.
Yes.
I'm on the set with Chris Broussard.
Oberlin College graduate.
And just, really entrenched in Cleveland sports.
Absolutely.
And Brian Windhorst,
yes,
who, of course, covered LeBron during his high school days and all the way through his professional career. And so for me, we were in the commercial break, and we were doing a speculative segment where LeBron would land.
Right.
And literally, we go to commercial break, the producer gets in my ear and says, "You're not going to believe this, LeBron's coming to Cleveland." And I thought, listen, everybody loved to pull my leg on this.
Right.
So I would walk by people in the hallways, and they would say, "LeBron just re-signed with Miami," or whatever. Everybody was constantly loved to joke on the Cleveland guy.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so I just thought it was a joke. I'm like, "Come on, don't." He said, "No, listen, everybody, all call from the earpieces. LeBron just released a letter through Sports Illustrated. He is coming back to Cleveland. I'm sending it to you guys in email. Read it, react to it. We're on in 20 seconds."
Oh my
and
goodness.
Literally, my head was spinning,
Yeah.
not thinking at all about navigating the next hour, 20 minutes of literal LeBron talk. I was euphoric. As a fan, I was beside myself.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at the time to Brian Windhorst, and I said, "Cleveland is going to end its championship drought.
Yeah.
It's going to end. It's over."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. They need a lot of other pieces." And I said, "I'm telling you, he is coming to Cleveland. He will win a title. It's over."
Yeah.
And so for the next hour and 20 minutes, I had the great fortune of navigating this breaking LeBron James coverage. And producers in that moment said, "Look, we want you to be the television host here, but we also need your reaction. You are the poster child on our network, Cleveland sports fan. So don't be afraid to weigh in with how this makes you feel." And
well,
in
that's
the subsequent
a credit to them.
It is.
That's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they were smart enough as well to know in the coming day. I had written a piece and voiced a piece that both were edited and ready to go. It was Cleveland's reaction to LeBron coming and Cleveland's reaction to LeBron not coming. And I told our producers, I'm going to write and voice the LeBron is coming. I will not write the LeBron is not coming, because in my mind, there is 0% chance he's not coming home.
Right.
So that piece was ready to roll, and we, within minutes of making the announcement, ran my essay.
Turned it around.
LeBron is coming home. This is what it means to me and to all Cleveland sports fans. And throughout that process, they had asked me to write a number of video essays. Same thing with when they went to the finals in 2016. They said, "We want you to write an essay, win or lose, after Game 6." And I said, "I'll write and record we're going to win Game 7. And they said, "No, Jay, look, we really want to have one ready for if they lose." And I said, they're not losing. That's not an option. They're winning." And they looked at me like I was crazy. And so I wrote the essay that this is what it means to Cleveland to finally get that championship. And again, not long after the championship game was over, Game 7, they ran that. And those were really, honestly, some of the great pleasures of my time with ESPN.
Yeah. Now, the Cleveland Browns, you've spent a ton of time with them, obviously, here in this preseason. They'll wrap things up Thursday night at the stadium against the Lions before we do this thing for real then the following Sunday, a week after Sunday. Give me your sense on how this thing has evolved since day one of training camp to where we are now when you look at the Browns.
Yeah, I think what's happened is the team is galvanized as one. And that was one of Freddie's missions, was to toughen this team up. He wanted them to become physical. He wanted them to have a tough mentality. And he also spoke many times about coming together as one group. And, he has said when we opened camp, there were 40 guys that had jobs. Well, 40 guys, you look at the roster, these guys aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So you essentially had 50 guys applying for 13 jobs. Knowing that, Freddie had a great line. He said, "This is the only business in the world where you hire 90 people to fire 40 of them."
You're right. He's right.
At the end of the day, that's what it breaks down to. So when they opened camp, there were 50 guys on that roster fighting for 13 jobs. That is insane. And I think over the last 6 weeks, the coaching staff has been evaluating everything very carefully, and in their minds, they probably have a pretty good idea who's going to get those 13 jobs, but it's not written in stone, and what happens Thursday night could change coaches' minds, depending on how players play and the like. So I think they're galvanized. I think they, from the Indianapolis week, it got real tough.
Yeah.
And I think they answered Freddie's call to be physical and not to let Indianapolis bully them or push them around. And maybe there was some of that happened the first day, but day 2 they came out and they popped the Colts square in the mouth.
Yeah.
And the Colts knew that, oh, okay, this team is here for more than a minute, and they're physical. And I think from that moment on, this team is sort of galvanized as one, and their mentality now is tough.
Yeah.
It's very tough.
Yeah, which is so much different than maybe what we've seen over these last
It's almost a
couple of
180.
years. It really is.
It's almost a 180.
In 2 years. I wasn't as discouraged as I think other people were about Tampa Bay. I just thought, better red zone execution,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that game, instead of getting 4 field goals, you might get or whatever, you might get a couple of touchdowns, and you don't feel quite as bad. Plus the fact that Baker might have had the offensive line in front of him, his starting offensive line, but you don't have your usual first team starting offense weapons behind you or around you. It does make a bit of a difference.
Dino, this was the analogy that I made. So if you look at the offensive unit as an engine, here's how many cylinders they have. One's the quarterback, one's the offensive line, one is the running back, you have 3 wide receivers, and you have a tight end.
Yep.
So you have a 7-cylinder engine. And I know that doesn't exist, but for this analogy,
Yes,
you have a
it does.
7-cylinder engine. You had Baker, you had the offensive line.
Yes.
You had no starting wide receivers.
No.
You had no tight end
Nope.
that's going to start.
Nope.
And no running back.
Nope.
So this team was hitting on 2 cylinders. There were a lot of pieces that were missing, and vital pieces. So I think at the end of the day, no one should be overly concerned about what they saw, because once the starters get out there, it's going to be a different story.
We're about to be handed something on Twitter here that is, let's see.
Breaking news.
Yeah. Jalen Strong just tweeted, Cleveland, thank you. Always gone. Always going to have a place in my heart. I gave you my all every day. I promise you that. God got me. But, well, I mean, this is it. Cut downs are starting. And it's I didn't expect that, though.
I didn't either, but I'll tell you, we met with him prior to the game in our production meetings, and thanks for that breaking news. That's outstanding. We met with him before the game in Tampa, and he talked a lot about lessons that he had learned from the Houston experiment. He was a high draft pick. Things did not work out. He spent a year out of football. He was having a really good camp.
Yes.
And had made some really big plays for these Browns. But I thought Thursday he just looked flat.
Yes.
He didn't have that same passion and drive that we had seen in so many of the workouts. He had a tremendous catch at the joint workouts in Indianapolis. He had, throughout camp, made terrific catches. I'm not sure that he didn't do enough with the Browns to open some eyes up across the league. I'd be surprised if someone didn't pick him up, and I'll tell you what I read into that. They didn't want to, as a service to him, they didn't want to wait until cutdown day, which is Saturday, to let him go. They would like him to perhaps get picked up by another team and maybe play in the final preseason game. Don't be shocked if you see Jalen Strong on an NFL roster this year. And what that speaks to, Dino, is the depth that this team has at wide receiver. This is going to be one of the toughest position groups for these coaches to whittle down. And I think Strong has a nice chance of hooking up. And I found him to be an engaging young guy and a guy that is so thankful for the opportunity that the Browns have given him. And I'm rooting for him. I hope he finds another team.
But it's going to open up an opportunity because of the Callaway suspension. It's going to open up an opportunity for someone like Willie's to win that a spot as the 4th wide receiver.
I think Willie's is safe. I do. And I wouldn't be surprised if they keep another one. I really wouldn't be, just because the Browns the way they're going to look offensively, you've got the two deep threats. It's the other guy that's on the field at the same time with Jarvis and Odell that is going to share a big workload because you got to double somebody.
Yeah.
And whether that's Jarvis or Odell on any given play, somebody's going to be lining up in single coverage. And Willie's gives them a unique look. He's the different, if you line them up, which is not like the other. Derek's tall, he's lean, he's thin, and I kind of get the idea that based on the kind of tight ends John Dorsey and the staff have assembled, they like that high in the air option and that over-the-top game, and I think Willie's is safe. I do.
You have been amazingly generous with your time, and I appreciate it.
Oh, Dino, anytime.
Got one more thing.
Sure.
You guys were talking on 3-on-3 about Trevor Bauer and just kind of it's not bizarre because it's Bauer. If anybody else had kind of said what he said, it would be bizarre, but it's Bauer. It wasn't bizarre. But surprised is kind of how that dynamic played itself out from the point of it's like, from one point, Bauer, we thought he was going to be a Cy Young candidate this year. It was okay, but not great. Got traded, and then you have the Kluber injury, and then now you have this.
Yeah, really, when he threw the ball over the fence in Kansas City, I immediately said, he's gone.
Yeah.
That's not – when you think of Tito Francona, you think of guys respecting the game, doing it the right way. And I know Tito publicly said all the right things, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if behind closed doors, Terry, in conversations with the front office, said, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You can't have that.
I can't.
You can't do that. And really, I wish Trevor the best. I do. He is an amazing talent. If you take all the stats away and you just look at the stuff, his is top 10 in baseball.
Yes.
Without question.
Yes.
He's added some pitches, too, through the years that have really given him an extra dimension. But sometimes Trevor's own worst enemy. And I think that was his undoing here. And I hope he figures it out.
Me too.
Between now and the end of his career. Because if he doesn't, he's going to sort of be a cautionary tale for how guys can trip up themselves.
Yep.
Just let your stuff do the talking. Come in, do what teams ask you to do.
Yes.
I always got the sense that Trevor felt like he knew better than everybody he's ever worked with. And some of his methods have been groundbreaking and have caught on with other teams and may revolutionize that position long term. But I think in the meantime, there was so much pushback that it just was not a great look for a guy that had all-world stuff, but a guy that cuts his finger in the during the playoffs on playing with a drone, and really didn't show a ton of contrition over that.
No.
I would have been so humiliated. I would have had a news conference saying, "I'll never touch a drone again."
Right.
I'm really sorry that I prioritized my own entertainment over my team, and I let my teammates down and the fans down, and I just never really felt like that was there. And I wish Trevor well. I hope he figures it out and wins 3 Cy Youngs for whoever he pitches with long term. But the comments came off to me as sour grapes.
Yeah.
Really.
I'm not ready to write off the Indians to win the division. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
The wild card's probably more realistic. But we've seen this enough times to know, even in 30 days of baseball, anything can happen.
Sure.
Anything can happen.
A lot of season left.
Yeah.
A lot of season left. They could catch the Twins. I keep thinking the Twins are going to falter. You look at their schedule, it's so easy.
Yes.
Typically, before the team makes that big step from bottom of the division to division champion and contender, there's an intermediate step. And oftentimes that intermediate step looks like this.
Yeah.
You run out to a huge lead. You hit the dog days of summer. You get tired. You all of a sudden you kind of revert back to your means and you miss out on the division.
Right.
I keep thinking that's what's going to happen here. Cleveland's battle tested. They've been through the wars. They know how to get through Septembers. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen the Twins blink for any long stretch of this season. And my hope is that the Indians can sort of overcome all of these injuries. Now it's Ramirez.
Right.
It's going to be very difficult. Yesterday's loss was
a gut punch.
It was awful.
Yeah.
Because you have your guy on the mound that you want, and the bully explodes, and you somehow scratch and claw, and you bring it even. and then you lose that game.
Right.
That's almost worse had there been no ninth inning. It is
totally.
worse. It is
worse. It is worse.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, my hope is they kind of figure it out and put together a red-hot month of September. I trust in Tito. I hope that he can overcome these injuries, and I'd love to see another October run for these Cleveland Indians. It's a lot of fun.
It makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun. This was fun, my friend.
Oh, Dino, always enjoyed it.
Jay Crawford, our guest host tonight on the Donovan Live Postgame Show. Remember, download the Master Pizza app. Start earning pizza points today from Master Pizza. That's Master